Microphone muted. User joined your channel.
Hello.
Here we are. Good evening and welcome to the second round of the USAC 1974 Championship,
Microphone activated.
coming to you tonight from Ontario Motor Speedway. And I heard in the background while we were doing the intro, we were joined by a couple of the drivers in this event. I believe that ought to be Jason White and Alberto Ibañez, possibly. And we of course also have Dave in the booth with us at the moment. Good evening, fellas.
Good evening, that's me, Alberto Ibañez, but Jason White is going to be in the race. How about Juha Bosch who is here with us?
Hello.
Ah, okay. Good evening, Juha.
Evening.
So what we can hear in the background, I think, is the warm-up session then, ahead of the first race of the evening. If we have a quick look here before we get going all together, we're, as I mentioned, at the Ontario Motor Speedway, a 2.5 mile oval. We'll be going for 40 lap heats, which will equal 100 miles. And the field will split between 2 heats based on qualifying shootout, which was 2 flying laps, into odd and even qualifying positions. And the heat results will determine the California 500 grid, which will take place next weekend, I believe. And let's also have a quick look at the points ahead of these heats. The standings after round 1 is as they finished in that race, but for those of us with a goldfish memory, such as myself, David Yates won the race and collected 300 points. Jakob Ferguson finished second in the Mongoose, securing himself 240 points. Alberto Ibañez finished third and scored 210 points. Juha Martinen finished fourth to score 180. And Dana Schurer rounds out the top 5 in the standings at the moment on 150 points. And we can also have a look at the points they'll be scoring in this evening's heats. The winner will score 200 points, then second place will score 160, and then there's a drop of 20 until we get to 60 points for 7th, and then it'll drop by 10 points to the final points paying position, which is again 12th. And yeah, I'd assume this will be a very quick and frantic event. What do you guys think?
I think so, Jonathan. The cars will be running light fuel, and getting a good position could be all important for the big race next week. So certainly people will be keen to do well.
Going to be hard to overtake here and in the next race. So this is a bit of a sprint race where everybody will be being quite aggressive. So it's going to be fun to watch because there needs to be a balance between being aggressive and getting a good position and at the same time being able to go the full 40 laps, because if you don't, then you will be starting on the back at Ontario.
That's very true indeed, and this track, while we still have a bit of time to talk about it, is very similar to that of Indianapolis, but you achieve slightly higher speeds around here due to a bit more banking in total around the track. Would you say that will affect the racing we'll see here at all compared to last time out at Phoenix?
Well, it's definitely a very different track. Phoenix was a short track, but you're going to crazy speeds. The only track that will be quicker in the circuit will be the Michigan race. That will be later, but for now it's been the quickest that we have done so far. And it certainly is a track where you have to be very careful, because it's not just that it's quick, but the turns are 90 degrees, which are obviously quite tight, even if it's a wide track, but it's quite tight. The only thing that is benefiting in that regard is that you can more or less like try to offset with the car that is in front, so that you are not so much affected by the wake, by the aero effects. You will see that it's very, very difficult following a car into the corner, or more precisely, not so much following it, but staying with it after the apex. So overtaking is going to be hard. Let's see how this pans out.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting, and I also noticed that we have a bit of an apron at the bottom. Do you think that will cause any issues for the drivers getting a bit too low around here, or?
Well, you can put the wheel, you can put your left wheel on the white line and maybe even a bit more inside, and that sometimes helps a bit turning the car. But if you go too much into the apron, you bet you're going to lose control of the car and be crashing.
That's something I remember from the Indianapolis race we did with the 1973 cars, that was a very, very potent danger to be putting your wheels on the apron at all. So that's why I ask. That's interesting. So it'll be an interesting thing to watch as well, and which drivers will dare to actually make their way down onto the apron with the inside left front wheel.
You need to be very precise. I mean, you can do it, and if you do it, it certainly helps, because turning the car is So, only 10 seconds to go. Those moments now. Obviously, the one who is in the best position now is the one on pole, because he gets the racing cleaner. And considering how quick that car is, could be Cesarius probably being able to run and open a bit of a gap while the others jockey for position behind him. But there's also then the pit stops, so there will be at least one pit stop in this race, as we will see, and well, strategy can here play a role, because you can gamble a bit depending on when yellow appears, or if you are doing it on the green. So anything can happen.
That's very much true, and will be interesting to watch. Please excuse me, I know the grid is forming up, but I just need to play around a little bit with the volumes. Which one would that be? Technically, it would be that.
There's still two cars missing on the grid, I guess. There, Brian Janik, and who else? What's Brian Janik doing? What's up here? Ah, okay. Well, he was waiting to the last possible moment, I guess. Is everybody in the grid now? Yes, so it seems.
Certainly seems so. So we have for the first qualifying heat, Cesariusz Szlapinski in the Voigt Enterprises entry, number 14 on pole position. Ryan Yannick lines up second for Robert L. Fletcher Racing. Adam Hackman is third for Unlimited Racing Team. Alberto Equino, Alberto Jr. is fourth for Wells Panelli Jones Racing Team. David Yates is fifth for Dick Simon Racing. Ray Riddle is sixth for Wall Motor. Jukka Martinen seventh for Team McLaren. Jason White eighth in the same of the Wells Panelli Jones Racing Team cars. Dave Miller is ninth for Al Laguasto, the privately entered McLaren, I think that is.
Certainly is.
Alan Forster is 10th in the Eldon Rasmussen car. 11th is Peter Lavac back racing with us here at ISO. Really great to see that he's able to come race well in one of the leader card racers cars. As the drivers are now coming up to the start line to get the first qualification heat underway. And the green
And
flag
there goes
is
the green.
Yep, and we are racing. So let's see what happens here. We have 11 cars who are going to fight it out for this opening part of the race. So we are now on board with Cesariusz Szlapinski, looking back at Ryan Yannick and the rest of the field.
Yes, Cesariusz has predicted already opening a bit of a gap. There's behind them Peter Lavac trying to overtake Ledelal, but not yet enough of a run there. Ledelal didn't close the door, but Peter's going to try it again, I guess. Going a bit slow in the turns, so that gives Peter a chance to actually overtake, because you know the aero effects, they play a big role. If you are actually going at the maximum possible speed in the turns, if you are not at the maximum speed, if you are like cruising because well you're trying to pace yourself, then it's still easy to overtake. Well, easy, at least not as complicated. There's Jukka Martinen now trying to also get a run on David Yates.
Yeah, we can see while you were saying that how much the aero effects and the draft helps the cars around here, because Yates was 3-4 columns behind Hackman and pulled right up underneath his rear wing down the front stretch. Looks like the top 3 down to 4th has gapped themselves out a little bit. Though Martinen, as you mentioned earlier, is still on the attack and now going up
well,
inside.
Jukka seems to finally be able to overtake. Now he's in front of David Yates. I know David had a bit of a dilemma here for the setup, because the Voigt engine in his car is not as torquey as the Offenhauser, and that means that even if the top end is very good, look at the run. He's getting close to Jukka now, but he had a problem with the shifting, because one gear was too short and the next one was too long. I'm not sure if he has been able to somehow solve that.
That's certainly a troublesome situation to have. Let's have a quick look down the rest of the field. I noticed Dave Miller is 6th, so I believe Dave has gained 3 positions off the line, started 9th. Alberto Equino, I think, has retained his position, possibly gained 1. Peter Lavac up to 8th from starting 10th, I believe, so that's a good start for him. Ray Riddle currently Ninth as Cesariusz Lapinski sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Jason White sits in 10th here, and Alan Forster rounds out the grid, also a returnee here to ISO. He's been away for, I believe, about 6 months, but now back racing with us, and it's nice to have him here as well.
Oh, Cesarius just pulls the wall slightly there, and he puts the wheel a lot into the apron there. Wonder if it's his setup that forces him to do like that, but as the fuel starts also getting burned and the cars will shift balance, we'll see what happens, because the problem with that Void, it's a very quick car, but it's also a car that it's hard to set up because you don't have any front wing, so there's not many adjustments that you can do. Yuka now seems to be slowly moving up, catching up with Adam Hackman, who is right now in 3rd position.
Yeah, I would expect that Works McLaren car to be fairly quick around here. So I wouldn't be surprised if he can catch up.
Oh, and Cesarius touched the wall again at the exit of the turn.
Oh dear. Well, Martanen gets a little bit sideways as well, so while many would think, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of times during oval races here at ISO and during our broadcasts.
Oh, it's Peter Lavak now trying to get close to Alberto.
Turning left ain't as easy as it seems, as we can see the cars moving around a lot for all the drivers in this race.
And seems that Lavak has now the run. Yes. He makes the move there and is able to overtake. Vidal should be careful now because he will be in dirty air.
Yeah, nice.
Lavak, look how the car moved there, because having a car behind you unsettles the rear of your own car. That's what's happening to Lavak now.
Ooh. That was a big loose moment as well.
Yeah, he's trying now to break a bit the toe, so block the inside line so as to not allow Little Al the ability of getting the position back. Little Al's already accounting, well, he still breaks the wall, but he was accounting for the aero effects, but it's always too much. I mean, more than you would expect.
Sorry, you are?
Well, in corners anyway. In corners, Pedro seems to run away, but as soon as you get to the straight, Alberto gets back to him.
Yes, the draft is strong. It's not so
exactly.
easy to get away. There's Yuka now trying to catch up with Adam Hackman. While Cesarius has already 8 seconds lead.
Alberto's going for Petro's position, he takes him. And
Not
that
this
didn't last
time.
long. Maybe Alberto was a bit too ambitious.
He's probably trying. See what happens there. But in the meantime, Vidal has been able to catch up with both.
Yes, indeed, and I noticed up ahead as well, Martanen is almost within drafting range as well.
You need to work on the car, need to be close, but close in the turn that is getting for the longest straight, not going into the tubes. It's always hard when the car in front is aligned, it goes very much to the inside. Because then you're denied the ability to go down to the apron. Ah, look at Ridal now. Since Little Al is making no progress there, it's Rai who is actually now looking for a way past. And we're already at lap 10. I don't want to say it too loud, but we haven't had any caution so far, which is always a good thing.
It's certainly a positive bit right here. It's very nice to have some green flag racing. We had quite a bit of green flag racing at Phoenix, which was a nice surprise. We got a few yellows, of course, but far fewer there than would have been expected. If we can get away with a full green flag race here, that would be tremendous.
I think that the last time we did these races, there was actually a completely green flag situation all the time, but not sure. Take it. So things have settled a bit, as Ride doesn't seem to be able to overtake Little Al, nor does Little Al seem to be able to put a challenge to Petar Labak, who hasn't moved too far away, but has enough of a gap so as not to be in a position to get overtaken.
I wouldn't be surprised if Ray is more or less sitting there, sort of biding his time, trying to save a little bit of fuel, and Weslavach races the wall just a tiny bit on between 3 and 4.
Juha is now getting much closer to Adam Hackman, thanks to the draft.
Maybe there'll be some action here then.
Yeah, now he's starting to suffer the problems of the air effects.
Indeed, and
Yeah, you see how the car swerves. Well, I also don't know what kind of setup does Juha have, but if you're running a low wing, that's going to hurt you a lot here, because you need downforce to be behind the other cars.
Or Juha gets very oversteer with turn 4.
Yeah, I guess this setup is set up in a manner that he gets more neutral when he's following another car. But then you pay the price if you're running alone. If you overdrive the corner entry, then you're also going to get the car to be sideways at the exit, because you're forcing too much the front tires, and at the moment that they lose speed and they grip, then the rear is going to snap.
because when the tires grip up, you're turning a little bit too much.
And
Yeah,
Ray's
exactly.
going for Alberto on the back straight.
He does indeed. He's up the inside and a clean pass on the inside there. Nice regulation pass, no issues by the looks of things.
It'll be interesting to see if Ray can get closer to Petra now.
Was Alberto actually heads into the pits. I wonder if he's fueling to the end and calculating the however you would call it, the back way, so to speak, calculating towards the end of the race and fueling now and be able to go until the finish flag
Oh
comes
no,
out.
he must have damage, because there looks like a lot of repair time there. 800
Yes,
something
he brushed the
seconds.
wall coming out of turn 4 on the previous lap.
Oh,
Yeah, so the
okay.
car was probably ill handling and he didn't want to take any risks.
Well, that's understandable. Just unfortunate that that's the case for him. So that brings Ray up into 8th, Jason White up into 9th, and Alan Forster up into 10th. With Dave Miller in 6th, David Yates in 5th, 4th for Jukka Matanen, now actually dropping away from Hackman after having caught up to him just 3-4 laps ago. Hackman 3rd, Brian Yannick still in 2nd, and a full 12 seconds in the lead at the moment. Cesariu Slapinski and the Voigt car. He's definitely making that car work around here.
Right now going to the
Oh,
apron.
Ray,
Whoa, 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 there he goes. He hits the wall.
That's a
That's
yellow.
what we were talking about. That's the problem when you are going for the apron. You need to do that to be able to follow the other car. I think it worked for him when he was following Little Al, but this time it didn't work.
That's
It's
very,
always a gamble, and now, oh, Little Al's coming out of the pits. But Cesarius, for example, all the lead that he had has absolutely vanished, and that's Brian Jennings in qualifying now heading for the pits. Because the pits are now open all the time, so he should be able...
this is a very good move by Brian because he'll be able to join at the back.
Yeah,
and not lose
Cesarius
much
is
time.
going very slow there. I'm not sure if he...
Realize
I think
what
he's
he's
not... He probably doesn't know, or he's not realizing that he doesn't have to...
Yes, because everybody's in the pits except Alan Forster and Cesarius.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Well,
Whoa,
what's-
maybe he... No, he's... Look at that. I mean, he's heading for the safety car. But the safety car, I think that's going to be a very quick caution, because the safety car is now on the apron to enter the pits. So maybe they're going to get the green flag now. It's going to be a very quick... Yeah, there it goes.
Yes,
the
it
safety
is,
car
yes.
is in.
wow,
I mean,
that's
yes,
an
but look
impressive
at that, I mean-
turnaround.
And everybody is at least 10 seconds behind him.
He is, yes, but he hasn't pit. I mean, unless there is another yellow flag, Cesarius is going to have to pit now under green flag conditions later in the race because he hasn't pit.
Meanwhile, this brings Alan Forster, who also then pit, up to second place.
Yeah,
But
of course, if you haven't pit, but you won't be able to do the full race on a single tank.
Exactly, as Slapinski crosses the wall, exiting turn 2.
Well, he's almost catching up to one of those that pitted. That's Jason White ahead of him now. When I noticed some tire smoke there, I think he was close to losing the car on the apron that time around in 3.
Yeah, I mean, the caution lap with 18 laps already covered means that everybody has been able to more or less keep the strategy, put enough fuel, and nobody will be stopping except Cesarius. So unless there is another yellow flag that gives him the chance to stop without losing too much time, this is going to be a killer for him.
Indeed, and actually leading the pack of those that has pitted is Adam Hackman. So he has gained one position
Probably
at
overtook
least.
Brian in the... Probably overtook Brian in the... Oops! Jason White that bridged the wall coming out of the turn. Cesarius is now following him.
Oh, and that's Cesarius just slightly nudging the wall with the right rear. And there he goes, puts Jason White a lap down here. Although there's still all to play for. Since Cesarius, as we mentioned a couple of times already, needs to pit again.
Well, you guys again right behind Adam Hackman, one second behind. They are now on heavy fuel and with new tires. This is very important because Adam is on Firestones, which are worse tires than the Goodyears. So that means that probably this has benefited him more, since the Firestones were, well, the degradation is higher. But look at that, you guys getting close. You be careful now, because one of the reasons that you tend to have a lot of washout when you're entering the turn is not just because of the car in front, but because the slipstream is so strong. And if you watch the speedometer, I don't know if our viewers can see it, you can see that you guys going up to 212 mph when he's going into the turns thanks to the drag. That means that he's entering the turns way quicker than he does normally, which also accounts for understeer. Now this time he held it. Look at that, he was able to stay behind Adam Hackman.
Well, if he can keep behind him here as well and use the draft, he could possibly pass him at the end of the back straight. I think he's a bit too far behind though.
And by lap 30, yes, Cesarius should pit if he hasn't pit yet. Also because of the speed that he's keeping with the car. Well, maybe, I mean, with the yellow, he obviously has saved a bit of fuel, so he can stretch it a bit. But not as much as to be able to go the full distance without stopping.
Indeed, and Martinen had one hell of a moment in the meantime now. He almost lost it on the exit of turn 4. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Cesarius solves this situation, because if he pits during the green flag, he ought to drop to 8th or something.
Yeah, and his car is getting oversteered by the moment. Probably due to a bit of damage by breaching the walls, but also likely because of it getting light, which complicates things a bit. Adam Forster is there soldering on. It's quite funny because he did a beautiful race that he won some years ago in Kart 88, and he was the only one that stopped in any possible situation. I mean, whenever there was a yellow, there went Adam Foster to get the full tank, and he was running like full tank, but in the end it paid off for him, because at one point he had the fuel needed to go the full distance, and everybody had to pit, and he won the race like that. And now he's doing the opposite. He hasn't stopped at all.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that works out for him as well. As you say, he's proved that he can make work of very good tactics, but it certainly seems...
Pinsky's in the pits, chaps.
Oh, he is indeed.
Yes.
So he
There
goes
he goes. You see it? Now
And he gets past, as expected.
Interesting
the
thing
pits,
will be how
as
far
expected,
back.
yes, but yeah, he tried to get a lead so as to be able to.
Yes, I think this has played out very badly for him, having lost 7 places.
Yep,
I don't think
drops
Jason
down
White
to-
will overtake him, but
Probably not, but he is down to 8th. That is... I'm not sure, he's 10 seconds quicker,
And
11
Adam is
seconds
getting
quicker.
also very oversteery now, obviously due to the very light load of fuel.
I wonder if Hackman and Martinen decided to not take tires during the stop. If that's
I
why
don't think
they...
that's the case for Hackman, because well, the Firestones, they certainly won't allow you to go the full stint, 2 full stints.
Well, I'm basing it on the fact that they both are now 7 seconds ahead of Brian Yannick, who were ahead of them when they pitted.
Now I can see that Juha, well, he's a very sensitive driver, and he has adapted, and he has learned that the problem was that the speed with which he was coming to the corners was causing more understeer than he actually was going to have. So now you can see by the apex speed how he's reducing sensibly so as to be able to follow Hackman.
and Hackman's getting close to Alan Forster, who still hasn't pitted.
Yeah. But now he's signaling, look at that, I mean, Foster is obviously going to pit in the next one. And
Yes,
pay
but
attention to
this may
this,
cost
because
Adam
Adam
Hackman
being in
time.
the way now, it can be a problem for Adam Hackman. Look at that, Juka's coming close now, and Alan Forster will now move away, but Adam, as much as I
He's
suspected,
really lost
look
a
at that,
lot
look
of
at
speed
that.
there.
This will be close.
Adam covers the inside. Oh, whoa, 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 my goodness. Let's see if this works for
Dear me,
Juha.
dear me, dear me.
For Juha. Oh,
Wow. And he's still on the
really close.
outside.
yeah, but now will come the washout, I guess. No, the speed, look at that. I mean, because the speed wasn't so high, there was not that much washout, and now he can have it.
Yes, and there he goes.
Yeah, now he has the position. Brilliant move by Juha. I mean, well played there.
Very opportunistic indeed.
Getting loose there due to being followed by Hackman, but I think he might be able to consolidate the position, though. Watch out, because
here comes
Hackman's
Hackman.
not going to let things go by like that.
He's very quick down
But he
the
backs off. He backs out of it.
He does, but he's
Has
very
to,
quick down
he
the
has to,
straights.
because with the slipstream you're reaching very high speed, so when you're getting into the turn you're actually way quicker than you think. But look at that,
Oh.
because Brian Janik is also not far away. He's behind Adam Hackman now.
All that really slowed them up. Yannick has gained just over 6 seconds in the lap and a half that battle went on. And we're now, as we cross the line, 10 laps away from the finish of this first qualification heat.
And Little Al is also catching up now with Jason White. I think both are 1 lap down, or Jason isn't. Yes, I think so.
You see, Jason isn't a lap down at the moment, but he will be once they get by.
Yes, but there's a lap between them, so...
Alright, so it would be a matter of unlapping.
Yes, and then he has to catch up another lap, which is unlikely unless anything happens.
Very much so, but it looks like Jason possibly signaling that he'll let him past here.
Well, Jakes is now trying to work on Peter Lavak.
Oh, this will be an interesting one to watch. Old sparring partners from last year. Slightly different circumstances here, but the battle looks like it'll be as good as it has always been.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, that car, Jakes just reached 216 mph in this straight. Yeah, he had to obviously brake a lot. I mean, a good part of the understeer is caused precisely by that, because you're not realizing it, but there he goes. Yes, he did the turn exit quite well. That worked for him, and he is now in 4th position.
And Jakes also goes past Peter Lavach for 4th position. Used the slipstream to his advantage as well.
Cesarius is now 2 seconds behind Dave Miller, catching up rather quickly, obviously, because the car is very quick and he has the legs, but well, he's 29 seconds behind the leader, unless I'm mistaken. So this, I mean, it's obviously that the race is in that regard far from attainable for him.
Yannick's getting close to Hackman, meanwhile.
I wouldn't. I mean, I'm really contemplating that both Hackman and Matan decide to not take tires to gain 10 odd seconds, because Yannick looks to be far more consistent on this run compared to Hackman and Matan in terms of overall speed. Although he brushes the wall slightly there, but looks like
going to the upper end that much is dangerous. That's what took Fry Riddle out.
Indeed,
be careful with this. But there's only 7 laps till the end, and obviously Brian is very well aware of this. That's second place at the tip of his fingers. Oh,
well, that may be, but he's certainly trying hard. Oh, and it looks like the car is bad now. That took the sting out of that car. The car looked very
Meanwhile,
skittish.
Sidarius is getting very close to Dave Miller's 6th place. Might take him on the home straight.
We'll see what kind of top-end speed these two cars had, but Cesarius is absolutely flying as he goes up the inside, and with a little bit of a close call there, secures the position.
Yes, I think it's unlikely to catch up with Peter Lavach in front of him.
Oh, I agree. 7 seconds in 5 laps. It'll be very soon. Shouldn't be possible.
Adam now protecting the inside, but here comes Brian Yannick with a big run.
Oh, that's a late move. But we've seen it's possible to go side by side. That's a strong forceful pass, but a great one at that.
I think watching the apex speed that you might be right in that maybe Adam didn't change the tires. I don't know, we'll have to ask him later, but if he did, that's going to be hairy, really hairy, because those firestones, well, I mean, you get to the end of the normal stint already with quite some danger, but doing so for 2 stints. Well, it's not 2 stints actually. I mean, no, a normal
It's
full
1.5
stint is
really.
around, yeah, more like
Or
1.5 years.
even.
But I can tell you, because of even those things, that, well, it gets really hairy towards the end of the stint. Though at least it seems to have been able to secure him a podium, which is quite nice here.
Indeed, he has 13 seconds to work with to David Yates, so should be secure as long as he stays on the grey stuff and doesn't hit a white wall on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what Brian can do now with 4 laps to go and to catch up to Juha. It looks like he's gaining hands over fist here. 3.5 seconds now. It was, I believe, 5 when he passed Adam Hackman.
And Brian is eyeing Juha and is getting closer, but I don't think that in 3 laps there will be time for that.
It's probably one of those. He'll probably get within striking distance, but if he will have the chance to strike is the question and issue at the moment.
Yes, we've seen already that you need several laps there to work the other car before being able to pass, if anything. So even if he is able to catch up with Juha, which I'm not so sure of because time is running out, but even if he were able, unless Juha makes a big error, I think that the Finn has it in the back.
Well, Juha is catching nearly a second a lap by the looks of things. So we could get within striking distance, but it'll probably be onto the start-finish straight.
Yeah, and Cesarius is right now behind Peter Lavak, looking there for another position that at least reduces a bit the problem for him. At least he needs a bit more points to stay in the championship race. But I think that this was obviously, I mean, bad luck or bad timing or whatever you want to call it, there is no doubt that Cesarius will be a legitimate championship contender.
Well, for sure, with this kind of pace around super speedways, and here he comes. He's in.
And
he's
I
in
think
the
he'll go
slipstream.
for the outside. Yes.
And I think he'll make it before the turn in at all, as well. So he does indeed. Lavach put up a good defense, but none can
Back
do.
to our leader, Juha seems to be still within a safe distance, but Brian is coming from behind. This is going to be a hairy race end for Juha. I mean, he was already quite happy after having overtaken Adam Hackman, probably looking forward to a more peaceful end of the race, but now it's only 1 lap to go, but look at that, because Brian is there. The menacing silhouette of that Eagle 74 is growing in Juha's mirrors.
It is indeed, but I think the time has run out. Oh, Martin a little bit wide there, though. Might be that Brian can throw one last kitchen sink at it through 3 and 4 on the final lap here. But unless he goes hell for leather, I think Martin will take the win here in the first qualification heat. Ooh, and Yannick definitely did, but
the car as much as he could, but
No, it was a lost cause. That was a definite one for Juha.
But that was a good effort, though. So Juha Martinen takes the win in the first of the qualification heat, so he will line up first or second on the grid for the California 500. Brian Yannick finishes second and will line up on row 2. Adam Hackman finishes third and will line up on row 3. David Yates finishes 4th, row 4. Cesarius Lapinski finishes 5th, row 5th. Peter Lavach finishes 6th and will line up on row 6. Dave Miller finishes 7th and will, of course, line up on row 7. Jason White finishes 8th, so row 8 for him. Alan Forster actually finishes 9th, so row 9 for him. And Alberto Junior, Alberto Quino, finishes 10th and row 10 for him. And Raven All unfortunately retired and gets scored in 11th and will therefore line up on row 11.
So we're going to have now a 15-minute break, and then we'll be back with race 2. Jason White will be here with you in the booth, and I will be hopefully at the steering wheel for the whole of the race.
And so will I. See you later, maybe?
Yep, thank you for joining me for this first qualification heat, and best of luck in your race this evening.
Thank you.
Please remind Jason to log himself the grid for this second race. Thank you. Bye.
User left your channel. User left your channel.
So while we wait for Jason to join us, let's have a look at the trivia question for this evening. And the question is, the 1991 Intrepid GTP car was penned by which 1970s IndyCar designer and his son? Was it A. Bob Riley, B. Maurice Philippe, or C. Gordon Koppuk? I gotta say, when I had a go at it, I went in there with a stab in the dark, but managed to get it right, so best of luck with that, and we'll take a probably 5-minute break here on the broadcast, and when we are back, we will hopefully have Jason with us in the booth, and shortly after we come back, the second qualification heat of the evening.
heading in. But heading into the first attempt to build some state-of-the-art facility for motor racing in Southern California. The first time that happened was in 1970 with a project known as Ontario Motor Speedway in Ontario, California. I think it was just 40 miles outside of Los Angeles, and it was almost a one-to-one scale replica of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway built in Southern California.
So let me get this straight. They straight up tried to copy, or basically did copy, the Indy 500.
Oh, with the blessing of Holman George, the owner of the Speedway at the time. Like as a gift, Holman George gave to Ontario Motor Speedway enough of the original bricks from Indianapolis Motor Speedway to line their victory lane. The victory circle was lined with original bricks from Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Bloody hell! That is some interesting attention to detail right there.
But there were two key differences in Ontario compared to Ontario and Indianapolis. Ontario was also it was a lane wider than Indianapolis, so it was the same layout but wider, and also the short straights between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 were also banked, so speeds were much higher at Ontario.
Jeez, that sounds pretty crazy. So, King, I'm waiting for the bad news here.
Well, Dre, have you ever heard of Ontario Motor Speedway before today?
Nope.
We're gonna get to that bad news very quickly, because Ontario Motor Speedway was state-of-the-art, and it was built in only 22 months.
That sounds ridiculous.
It opened in 1970. It was the first racetrack in the world with electronic timing and scoring, which is now ubiquitous today. It was the first racetrack with luxury boxes, or anything resembling a paddock club today was the first circuit with that. It was meant to be the thing that would take racing to the next level, because in the United States, we've never had anything near a major city, let alone the second largest city in the country. Like, I think opening day for the Speedway was November 1970. Actually, September 1970, with the inaugural California 500. It was an IndyCar race, and they, like, built it up so much they got as many Hollywood stars as they could to show up for the race, because they wanted Ontario to be the place to be, because they invested so much money into this. Like, I think, who were the movie stars that they had? I know they had Garner. He was the star of the 1966 film Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah.
They also had John Wayne show up.
Oh, wow.
Also, Kirk Douglas. Like, if you don't know Kirk Douglas, he played Spartacus in Stanley Kubrick's film Spartacus.
Mm-hmm.
User joined your channel.
And the California 500, the inaugural California 500, had the largest turnout on the calendar, on the IndyCar calendar. The only race that had a higher attendance was obviously the Indianapolis 500.
I'm guessing, like, I'm waiting for the wheels to fall off this, King. It hasn't quite happened yet.
Yes, they asked the FIA if they could host a second U.S. Grand Prix besides Watkins Glen. The FIA said that, if you host a non-championship race in the 1971 season, you could host a second U.S. Grand Prix if it goes well, and you decide to pay the fees to host the race. Next year, they host this non-championship Quester Grand Prix, because I think Quester Industries was the name of the company that built the track. Mm-hmm. So they host the race. They also knock it out of the ballpark. I think they had the second highest attendance of any race on the 1971 calendar. Despite being a non-championship race, only the British Grand Prix had a higher attendance that year, and that race was also won by a then fairly young Mario Andretti as a rookie at Ferrari.
Wow. That seems pretty nuts. That does seem pretty nuts. Go on.
They also got a race date on the NASCAR calendar and ended up being the second highest event on the NASCAR calendar, only second to the Daytona 500. And the race was a huge success, and they ended up being the season finale on the NASCAR calendar until 1980. And unfortunately, things started to fall apart.
I was gonna say, Helena, this is going far too well. Are you getting this impression right now?
Yes.
No, yeah. No, it's interesting. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding.
Things started to fall apart because the Speedway was extremely expensive to build, and also, the Speedway was built using bonds, so they had to, it was basically a loan. They had to pay back the loan. So, while the attendance to the Quester Grand Prix was great, it wasn't as high as they expected it to be. So, they decided, yeah, that F1 race that we hoped for, yeah, we're just going to throw that away. We're not going to host it because it would be too expensive. We're not going to be able to make the money back fast enough. The California 500, also, the attendance started to trickle back. Like, yes, they were still getting massive crowds, but they couldn't make the money back.
Oh dear, oh dear.
NASCAR,
oh dear.
Same story. Attendance great, but they couldn't make the money back. Little did they know that the value of the land that the Speedway was sitting on had actually gone up by, I think, about 10 times the value that it was. So they had bought the land the Speedway was on for about $1,000. By the end of the 1970s, that land was about $10,000 an acre.
Yikes! That is a huge. That's a huge price hike right there.
Yes. So what had happened was they did not know this either.
Go on.
So, an oil company, Chevron Oil Company, had eventually, when the Speedway started failing, it And the Speedway was like, they would, sell it to an oil company, because of course they would want races to happen there because they're an oil company. So they ended up buying the Speedway for $10,000. The actual, they ended up buying the Speedway for $10 million. The actual value of the land the Speedway was on was $120 million.
Yikes. So I'm guessing they just ended up selling the land back, didn't they?
Yes, after the end of the 1980 NASCAR season, which that season finale at Ontario, it didn't sell out, but some small rookie, his name was Dale Earnhardt, won his first race there.
He turned out all right, didn't he?
yeah, and also Richard Petty won the last of his 7 titles there.
Okay.
Yeah, after that race, Chevron demolished the Speedway.
It's like, hey, this racetrack is getting in the way of our vast, expensive land.
So they demolished the Speedway. They demolished the Speedway and sold off the land for the money. I think today a hotel and a shopping mall are there.
Again, it turned out all right in the end, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think one of the people on the Speedway board of directors decided in the 1990s to build a new Speedway 2 miles away, but obviously it wasn't the same. That Speedway director on the board, his name was Roger Penske, and he decided to build what is now Auto Club Speedway 2 miles from Ontario.
Roger Penske always ends up being in every one of these stories in some capacity. It's crazy. It's like,
yes, and that second USGP date that was supposed to go to Ontario, it ended up going to this small California coast city. It was a port city called Long Beach. So generally, Ontario was what could have been for American racing. It was a state-of-the-art venue, first of its kind in many ways, probably set the precedent for every other circuit to be built after it, but it only lasted for a decade, and it never really had any low points. It had top racing across the board, and they never really had any race days that went underattended. They couldn't make back the money that they loaned to build it, and they did, for whatever reason, overlooked the value of the land the track was sitting on, and it all just went away in a blink of an eye.
And instead, we got left with Long Beach. Great.
Yes.
Okay, we are back live here at Ontario Motor Speedway, and thank you to InsideIE.com who put together that piece talking about the Ontario Motor Speedway, and we are also joined by Jason White now, so good evening, Jason.
Good evening, how you guys doing?
Doing pretty well. Was a very interesting first race there, so hopefully the second will be just as interesting as the first.
Well, I think that race was determined by the USAC officials more than anyone else.
That's probably true indeed, but...
Yeah. Was not expecting that green flag right away there. But then again, given there was no other yellow, I don't suppose it would have changed the results much anyway. But
probably not.
No, but we're going to have a consultation with USAC man offline and tell him that he can't do that in the 500.
Very much so.
So I'm really looking forward to being your color commentator for this, because this is likely the only time this year I'm going to get to call or talk about a USAC race during it, as I'm going to be driving the rest of the time. So thanks for having me in the booth. I hope everyone enjoyed race number 1. Kind of a quiet affair for me out there, but I didn't crash the cigarette box with wings. And I will be starting in the 500 next Sunday, so that's the objective. And I got a few points. So
that's a very good effort indeed, and a very good way to be looking at it.
Yeah. So I mean, this is going to be a really excellent race. We've got not only Alberto Ibañez at the front for this race, but we also have David Saber in the Factory Eagle. So we've got Dan Gurney versus Parnelli Jones right at the very front. So lots of heavyweights in this race. Jakob Fredriksson, who's always good on ovals, driving a kind of a garden variety Eagle. We've got both Pat Patrick cars, driven by Jason Fitch and Raul Yareb, if he can get back here in a bit. And Juha is going to be driving the Jerry O'Connell Sugar Ripe Prune car. So, and we have Delacella as well. He's another guy who really likes ovals. And a newcomer to ISO Racing, Ernest Mraz. From Poland, I believe.
I'm not entirely sure, but I reckon you're probably right if that's where you believe he's from. And it'll be very interesting to see what he can do in these cars. First race for him here at ISO, and hopefully he'll enjoy himself, and we will get another good hard racer here at our community.
Alright, so yeah, I've been alerted that Raul is here, so we're going to be going to the race session. I'm going to put in the grid real quick. I'm doing admin and color commentary duties at once here.
That's perfectly fine.
Alright, so grid input.
I have to say it's easier to do color and admin compared to play-by-play and admin.
Oh, yeah, I can only imagine how taxing that is. All right, so I'll let you go through the grid as they're coming around. I'm going to do my very best not to step on your toes.
Feel free to step on my toes as much as you want.
No, but you're the you're the play-by-play guy in this case. You're the Paul Page, and I have to be the Sam Posey. So I will watch for the openings, and I will alert you to things that are going on that you may not be following. Okay?
Okay, we'll try and see how it goes. If I'm too slow, then go ahead.
You might want to ditch the race over graphic.
Oh dear! Thank you very much.
It's not over yet.
It's not even a green flag yet, so let's do. Oops. Yep, that worked. There we go.
All right, cool. I'm looking forward to this one. There's a lot of. This should produce some good racing.
Oh, for sure. See, we're still waiting for a couple of guys, aren't we?
Somebody didn't go to the. Who didn't go to the grid?
No, we have everyone on the grid. It was just the grid and the pits looked a little bit off. So on pole for the second qualifying heat will be David Saber for All American Racers. Second on the grid will be Alberto Ibañez in the third of the Parnelli Jones Racing Team cars. Third is Jakob Fredriksson for Webster Racing. Fourth is Dana Scherer for Roger Penske. Fifth, Francois Remen in the Robert L. Fletcher machine. Raul Yareb, sixth for Pat Patrick Racing. And Jason Fitch in the team car in seventh. Juha Bors is eighth for Jerry O'Connell. Ernest Mraz is ninth for John Martin. And rounding out the grid, I believe in 10th is Greg Delacella for the leader card races, Ralph Wilk entry.
Yes, and yeah, we were supposed to have 11, but we have one non-starter, so here they come down to the green. Tense moments here, especially with all the, if you're back in the grid and you're looking forward to all the cars in front of you, you know it's going to be a storm out there. Pace car off the track.
Indeed, and they've been waiting for almost an hour here, so they'll probably be even more on edge here. Otherwise, we have a drive-through penalty for Alberto Ibañez. And a big quick start there for Juha Bors from 8th to 1st.
Goodness.
And
so
a whole
it looks
pack
like
behind.
it looks like Alberto jumped the start there. It appears. I think he might have had a similar issue in the test race we did 1 week ago. That's really bad news for him.
It is indeed, but hopefully it'll work okay either way. As we look behind, David Saber going in on a low line there, washes out just a little bit, but keeps up a decent amount of pace, and Alberto Ibañez behind is under attack from Raul Jareb. So Raul had a good start as well, and there goes Alberto into the pits for his drive-through, serving us as quickly as possible.
He's got to be absolutely gutted about that.
Well, it'll certainly put a spanner in the works for him, but...
Oh, look, there goes Jakob Fredriksson underneath Raul Jareb up to 3rd place, driving the Webster Racing Eagle. Very nice pass.
Indeed, I didn't even see him behind there, but he must have been 2 corners or something behind, coming onto the straight. And when Raul had no one in front of him, he used the slipstream from him, and here he comes in onto the inside of Saber. Dear me. Wow, Fredriksson is flying. Wow.
Yeah, Jakob is no slouch in these cars. He's very, very good at the American oval racing technique, and he just overtook the factory Eagle. Oh, a bunch of cars dealing with washout there.
I believe Fredriksson was the first to scrape the wall, then Saber and Jareb followed him in there as well. So we have some very early movers here. Fredriksson, of course, won the tricky triangle at Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, I'm completely forgetting the actual name for the track, but
Pocono.
Thank you, Pocono, that is. And he proves some very good tactic knowledge as well, so it'll be interesting to see. Oh, it's very low on the apron there. That can, as we saw with Ray Riddle in the first qualification heat, unsettle the car quite a bit.
Dana Schurer is very quietly making her way up the field, and those who've watched this mod before in other leagues know that she is not to be taken lightly. She's driving Gary Bettenhausen's Penske. Last time out, she drove the Eagle 72 at Phoenix. That's the only time she'll be driving an Eagle this year. So now she's driving the actual McLaren that she'll be driving the rest of the season.
I think she's happy to be in that McLaren around here.
Yeah, she mentioned on the forum that she appreciates the handling of the McLaren a lot more than the Eagle, and I'm inclined to agree.
I think I can understand that. Oh, and behind her we have Raul Jareb under attack. And there goes Francois Remen. Wow!
That was a very gutsy move. Remen going up 1 position. But it looks like Jareb's not going to take that line down. Meanwhile, Fredriksson is closing in on our leader, Juha Boss.
Well, here
He's going to go for it. Down the inside. And he's got him. God, he made that look really easy.
But we did indeed. But I don't think Juha will be taking that line down either. It'll be interesting to see how his car handles in that dirty air in the corners.
Yeah, it's amazing how much your car feels upset. I mean, if you've just got one car in front of you, that's one thing. If there's a series, it's a storm out there. Here comes Dana up the inside, and she takes David Saber, and you see how much she's having to fight the car just because of all the wash of air that now is spilling over his nose from the Penske McLaren.
Indeed, and that's technically not a bad car in dirty air, but even with a good car in dirty air around here, it's very, very tricky indeed.
Technically, I think the best car in dirty air in this mod, at least of these cars that are here, would probably... Oh, we got a yellow.
Oh, it's Raul Jareb with a spin.
Oh, no! Well,
dear me.
I didn't see if he contacted anybody. If he managed to just get into the dirt, he may be okay.
I noticed him and Francois Remen, I think it was running very, very close to one another. Looks like he's still going.
Another small thing to point out is that his teammate struck the wall pretty heavily. Oh, I see exactly what happened. Raul took the car down below the white line and grazing the... Oh, yeah, he impacted the wall, so he's going to have some serious damage.
Yeah, he did.
All right, so I'm guessing there's a chance people might be pitting now. I don't know, it may be too early.
Jason Fitz is in the pits.
Fitz is in the pits. Well, he's got damage he's got to fix. Fredriksson's coming around. He's going to be picking up the safety car. Yeah, the Oldsmobile exiting the pit lane.
Yeah, it looks like Fitz is the only one to pit.
Really? Well,
at least now.
Well, that probably means that everyone's done the fuel calculation and they know that it's not feasible to fuel up now and make it to the end. So...
I think it'd be just borderline if you tried to pit at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it.
It depends how long the safety car stays out, but it looks like it's heading for the apron already.
Yeah, USAC man is trigger happy with the green flag in this. So yeah, there goes the Oldsmobile moving far faster on that turn than probably it was designed to do.
Probably, as Fitch comes out to the pits, so at least he didn't drop a lap.
Yeah, he's lucky in that case. He's going to be able to, well, he's quite a distance behind here. He's going to have to really hustle if he wants to catch the field. But in comes the pace car. Let's see if Juha can duplicate his quick start. Not this time. Frederickson. Oh, wait a minute. There he goes. Oh, he glances the wall.
And
In the process.
And Fredrickson gets a drive-through as well. I wonder if he passed the safety car before the yellow start-finish line.
You got to be careful coming down to the line. You can't get ahead of the pace car. You can't do that.
So unfortunately, that's another one in strife at the moment. And he'll be another one hoping for a yellow, just like Alberto did earlier. And Alberto is up in the 5th.
Here comes Dana up the inside of Juha and pulls off that pass, and she's up to 2nd place now. Oh, yep, there goes Fredrickson into the pits.
And that means Shura effectively took the lead. Oh, it's sideways!
Man, look at the spin! Oh my goodness! Oh, Fredrickson had a big accident, turned right, and I think that was Ernest Mraz, had nowhere to go.
Oh, and someone else hit him. Jereb hit him as well. I wonder if he hit some debris or something.
Oh, the digital humanity.
I wonder if he must have hit... No, he just... Oh, yeah, he did. He hit Emrose first, and then he hit Remen on the inside. Oh, dearie me, that's really unfortunate for all of them.
Looks like I picked the right heat to be in.
Oh, it certainly looks like it. Looks like... Oh, Alberto it looks like for Remen, Alberto Ibañez got a little bit slow into the corner. Remen got the washout and got... When the car then slowed down, it overgripped and just spun on him. Oh, and really lucky there was Jason Fitch. No, sorry, not Jason Fitch. Greg De La Cella was really lucky to avoid all of that.
Raul's car just came flying in there. So that's 3 cars out of the race right there.
Indeed. And just watching.
And
wow.
David Sabers somehow lost it in the pits. He's facing the wrong way.
What?
Really? Oh, he does, and he's lost his front wing as well.
Oh no! And Dana's in the lead. As they come around, I guess they're taking the. They're going to be taking the. Yeah, they're behind the safety car now. We'll see if the safety car does what it's been doing all this time. Oh no! It looks like it's going to be staying out this time.
Yeah, considering all the debris on the track, not even USAC man can be that trigger happy. They need to clean up the track first.
USAC man has got a very weathered face. If you can find him in the pits, you might put him on cam. He's at the end of the he's at the end of the pit lane. He looks very ornery and very mad all the time. And he's at the circular exit of the garage. That's where he's at. He's standing there by the thing. Well, anyway, no, there's more important stuff going on. In comes Alberto, and in comes Greg De La Cella for their pit stops. Alberto has scored in the lead briefly, but that's probably because he's just accelerating for his pit box. Yeah, Dana's staying out.
And to be fair, Jakob Fredrickson scores a bit of luck as well, because with that drive-through and now a yellow, I think he'll even be able to pit here. Looks like he is also heading for the pits. And he'll be able to join up at the back of the field. But that's very unlucky for all of them.
So during the break, you guys were watching the history of the track itself?
Yeah, we were indeed.
Well, that was a smart choice.
Yeah, I thought that. And here we have... Oh, we didn't quite get to see him, but we had a quick look at the USAC man from Jakob Fredriksson's car. But yeah, sorry, go ahead. The story of Ontario Motor Speedway.
No, but it looks like the pace car's coming in.
Oh, well, then we go back to racing instead.
Yeah, so you've got Dana leading, and Juha's in second in the Sugar White Prune Special. So they're gonna come off the corner here, and I'm sure that they're gonna be very careful not to overtake. And then we got Fitch in third place. But the question,
another one scoring luck with the safety cars, but Let's see here. Green flag is out. Now,
Oh,
and
goodness,
Fitch gets
look
a
at-
great start.
Look at Fitch.
And Alberto Ibañez right behind him as well. So Fitch takes the lead going into
Oh!
turn 1 here.
Wow, that was very close between Alberto and and poor Delicella is coming out of the pits just as this is going on.
I suppose you could say Fitch in first and everyone else in second.
Well, the challenge now, here's the thing, yeah, and here comes Dana. I'm thinking Fitch is running with damage. The only way that he could be up there is if he didn't get his car fixed after striking the wall. Ooh, Dana ducks back in behind him here.
Well, that said, Fitch really attacked the entry into 3
Yeah.
there, so that's why Dana had to back out.
We're seeing the Patrick cars in their unusual blue and yellow livery. This is before their contract with the STP is signed.
Well,
So,
STP and later they also signed with Marlboro, didn't they?
No. There goes...
Oh yeah, that was
Nope.
Penske, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking of a different team. Oops.
in a different decade, to be honest.
Oh yes, that as well. I was moving 20, 30 odd years into the future.
So not only... Now here comes Alberto up the inside to overtake Fitch, but he drops back in. You see, when you step out there, out of the slipstream, you just hit a wall of air. And if you don't have the momentum, you can't get alongside somebody.
Indeed, and unfortunately Greg Delicella has retired as well.
Well, that's too bad.
I didn't see what happened to him there, but I wonder if he picked up damage despite it looking like he avoided all that. But fight for second is still on. Alberto Ibañez runs very
My
wide.
goodness. He definitely had a... I don't know whether that was washout or what, but he looks like he's well placed here to try to... If he can get off this corner good, he might be able to slingshot past Fitch down the straight here. We'll see.
Yeah, it actually looks like that's his...
Certainly placed well. There he goes.
Yep, there he goes up the inside with a good bit of speed.
This should stick, I would think.
It does,
Yep, there he goes.
It does indeed. He goes ahead and up into second, and now will try to chase after Dana Schurrer, which will not be an easy task. But Alberto and Dana was involved, I believe, 2 years ago now, maybe even 3, in one of the closest finishes I've ever seen. In I believe it may even have been these very cars.
Might have been. I can't remember. It was at the Texas World Speedway.
Indeed.
Texas 200, and Alberto beat Dana to the line by the smallest of margins. So it is, in that sense, sort of a rematch. We'll see if, Alberto's got a little bit of ground to catch up here, but we'll see. He's got the benefit of, that's actually, the car that Alberto's running is an Eagle 73. It is not a 74 yet. I believe he gets a 74 next race.
And Fredriksson about 8 seconds behind the leading pack, so he could also still play a part in this.
He could. I wouldn't count him out. I think he's going to need a yellow, frankly, to catch these guys.
Possibly. We saw Brian Yannick in the first qualification heat gain 6-7 seconds on the leading pair after the pit stop. So of course here the tactics has been a little bit different, but from what we could make out, at least one of the leading pair didn't change tires, and that's why Brian was catching up. But
well, one thing you have to keep in mind is that if you don't change tires here, if you're a Firestone runner, you're probably going to be in trouble towards the end, because the Firestone tires will just drop off a cliff with 10 laps to go. We're still just a little south of halfway here. Alberto's hanging right with Dana and starting to reel her in a little bit here, so we could be treated to a really excellent duel between these two. Although, whoa, Alberto had a really loose moment there in the short chute.
Seeing the YouTube chat there, and Dave's picked up a few things.
Oh goodness! Looks like Dana pulled out a bit of an advantage there. Either Alberto had a slight bobble or something happened there.
Yeah, I wonder if he got a little bit sideways. I noticed he is getting a little bit sideways. He's using the apron a little bit, and it looks like it's slightly unsettling the car. Looks like his rear is a little bit loose at the moment. Looking from behind, from Fitch perspective, looks like Alberto is running a very loose car. Actually having to fight the car a little bit.
Yeah, he's having to fight the car and exit. But I suppose that he'd rather have that than push.
Well, it's all dependent on what you prefer, I suppose, and what you're used to. And especially with the way the dirty air works, that's probably the way you have to have the car set up if you want to run in traffic and be really quick in that scenario.
Yeah. I gotta say, overall, the driving standard of everybody here is quite good. I mean,
for sure.
If you had told me we were only gonna have one yellow in the first race, I would have laughed you out of the room. So I mean, I think we've got people here that are really embracing the mod and really having fun with it and understand. Oh, Alberto just had another really loose moment exiting turn 3. So that car, he's gonna have to start working with the sway bar. He has a sway bar adjustment for the rear, so he's going to have to work with that a bit to try to balance the car. He may have already gone as low as he can with the sway bar, and he may be out of adjustment. If that's the case, he may just have to deal with it.
Well, it's difficult to say, and of course also the way the fuel works. I'm not entirely sure where exactly the fuel tank is in his car specifically, but when the fuel burns off, that could also help him or hinder him. So that could also play into his favor if he has a little bit of fortune.
Well, I don't believe Dana has pitted yet, has she?
I'm honestly not sure because of all that happened during the yellow and.
Well, she may have to make her stop yet, and if that's the case, Alberto's already made his.
Oh, of course, and so has Jason Fitch with that repair stop. That should have been within the fuel window, if only just so.
Yeah, I honestly didn't see. We'll get the answer eventually here.
Oh, of course.
So we're past half distance now. We're working lap 21. Did you guys do the trivia?
Yes, I have asked the trivia. I did so early in the race break.
Cars are spread up. Might be a good time to look at the answer now.
Well, yeah, I suppose you're right. So let's have a quick look here if I can get everything sorted on my end. There, so to just quickly remind you of the trivia question. The 1991 Intrepid GTP car was penned by which 1970s IndyCar designer and his son? Was it A. Bob Riley, B. Maurice Philippe, or C. Gordon Kopeck? I would want to pronounce that name.
Kopeck.
Kopeck? Okay, thank you very much.
You might want to give the answer because we got action to look at on the track.
Oh,
here.
we do. Then
yes.
The answer to the trivia question is B. Sorry, A. I was looking at the first letter of his name. Bob Riley. Which, of course, if you watched endurance racing during the late 80s and 90s, you will have seen the Riley name during that era.
Yeah, there are two cars in this. There are two cars in this mod he designed.
Oh,
AJ Foyt's Coyote, and he designed obviously the car that has his name, the Riley, that'll appear later in the hands of Bruno Chacon.
Oh, of course. And I suppose the action you were talking about was the pass Jakob Ferguson put on Juha Boss.
Yes, he overtook him really with a lot of authority. I mean, I think it's a combination of maybe Juha's running with a bit of damage or something, and Fredriksson. But man, Fredriksson's really working the back of that car. He's getting great rotation coming off the corner. And Dana is just checking out here. She's just slipping little by little further away from Alberto, unless there's any kind of crazy instance here of something going wrong. He's going to be picking up the points for this quali race win. And a prime starting spot for next Sunday.
Oh, of course. Let's see, Yuka Martin won the first heat. Do you happen to remember where he started?
I can have a quick look. Hang on.
Because if he, dependent on where they qualified here, this will of course also decide who...
Yuka started 7th in Heat 1.
Well then, I believe Dana Shura qualified higher and she would be on pole for the California 500 if she wins this qualification heat.
No, in actual fact, it's determined by the finishing order of the two. So Yuka's going to be on the pole for the race because he won Heat 1. It's not determined by time.
Okay, so that's how
we're just doing straight.
That's how we've done it. Fair enough. Yep.
Yep.
Well, it's still a good position to be, first row of the grid. But it has to be said that Alberto is keeping the distance between them constant.
He's not giving up. He knows that all that needs to happen is a yellow flag and he could be right back into this again. Or Dana make a small bobble. Of course, Dana doesn't make many mistakes. But coming by now, we got lap 27, 28, 29, and 40 to go. So 4 laps to go.
14 laps to go, I mean.
Oh, 14? Okay. All the I still have too much blood in my arms and hands from fighting that Parnelli.
Yeah, knowing how you want to set up your cars, Jason, I can imagine you had a bit of a fight keeping that on.
I had set the thing up super loose, and I was still having trouble turning into the corner with cars in front of me.
Oh dear me.
It was just, I mean, it's different, you know. It's different than running by yourself in so many ways. Not only are you in a situation where you have a lot of cars to look at in front of you, there's just a lot more going on, and it's harder to pick up where you're supposed to turn in, and it's very easy to get flustered. I'm actually looking forward to next Sunday's race as opposed to this because you can afford to hang back and let things develop, you know. 500-mile races are in a way kind of a hybrid between endurance races and, you know, there's an endurance race quality to 500-mile races I like.
Oh, of course, of course.
If you plan things properly, if you take it easy, you know, at the right times, it can really play in your favor. People who charge too quickly and make a mistake early on, you know, it's
You could almost think of it as a 450-mile endurance race to determine the grid for a 50-mile sprint.
Basically, yes, that's what it is. Dana just, like, she's driving that car like it's on rails. She has a very late arc into the corner, and she can probably pull that off with the McLaren quite well. Other cars, I don't think will want to do that. My Parnelli, I need to start turning in a lot earlier than other people, so to counteract the push.
It's the sort of situation where you come on a road and you know it's slightly wintry here. I'll probably need to turn in a little bit early, but here you need to turn in like I would expect like 100 meters before at normal road speed would turn in.
I'm starting to turn in before I even get to that little lamp that tells you it's that tells you it's green or yellow.
Wow.
That's how early I'm setting up.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's how strong the wind is. So 10 laps to go now.
Yep, and Fredriksson closing in on Fitch for third here.
I'll tell you what, this doesn't bode well for the factory Eagle people. And oh, there goes Dana! She's going. Okay, so she didn't pit. So here she comes. She has to pit under green. That effectively is going to put her out of the running.
And Alberto
take.
Will take the lead and probably the win here.
And there's another car in the pits. There's Juha. Yeah, Juha's pitting as well.
That's unfortunate for those guys.
Yeah, this is what you don't want to happen. You don't want to pit under green. Yeah, this effectively kills Dana's race. That's too bad.
She'll be in fifth here.
Yeah, she's in fifth now as Sabre comes by. But notice has been served by the Penske team. They've got a great driver and a great car. So next Sunday, it's going to be very interesting.
Should certainly keep a lookout for.
That's a very combustible front row. Yuka in the factory McLaren in the front row, and then you've got Dana right alongside.
Well, it
if
would
I
have
wasn't
been.
in the race.
Not over
Oh,
yet,
it would have been. Yeah, it would have been.
Well, now we have the fiery Spaniard instead. If it finishes
Yes, that's true.
as it
Yes.
is, so I'm not entirely sure that's any less combustible.
Well, I think Alberto's really counting his blessings here because he had that penalty to start.
Oh, of course, of course.
And things could have definitely gone south for him quickly, but he maintained his composure. He stayed there, and yeah.
Very much so. And Fredriksson as well. He's been digging all the race here, and he's now sitting in third within striking distance of second.
I think Fitch is about to pit there, Jonathan. He
really
made the signal on the back straight, or he was trying to break the draft.
He's not pitting now. He may have just had a slight bobble. If I'm Fitch, if I'm going to pit, I'm going to scroll through that menu and make sure I've turned off damage repair. Because if he hasn't, that Patrick crew is going to be spit shining the car while people are celebrating in Victory Lane. So.
Indeed.
He's definitely going to get a challenge from Jakob before this race is over, unless he has to pit.
That's certainly the case. I think. Pardon me. I think Fredriksson is actually taking it a little bit easy here. I think he's realized Alberto is out of reach here, but.
Oh yeah, Alberto's gone.
Here he comes up the inside, going towards turn one. Fitch stays very wide indeed and lets him past. Very thoughtful there, I think. I think Jason is happy to be top three here and started the front three rows of the 500.
Fitch knows the big picture here. He knows that next Sunday the win pays 1,000 points.
Indeed.
So,
compared to 200, I think it is.
Yeah.
Tonight. That's how big the difference is in score points, and that's why we're showing the amount of points you score in each round.
Yeah, because it's different.
You guys watching will know what's at stake.
Yeah, there's not a heck of a lot at stake in this race in terms of points, but I don't know. At the end of the year, a small race like this may make the difference. Who knows?
Oh, of course. I mean,
these cars are very even.
Of course, 1 point in championships where you score 15 or 20 for a win can decide championships. I mean, look at the World Rally Championship in the 90s. There were several occasions where the championship was won by 1, 2, and 3 points. And I remember distinctly Tommy Mäkinen won in the late 90s by 1 point, scoring that point while under the influence of a cold in Great Britain, the final round of that year's championship.
You could probably write an article about drivers who've won races when they were ill.
Oh, of course,
because there's several instances of where they just dig deep and they pull out one of the best performances of their career when they're actually sick.
Indeed.
And that's not just in automobile racing. That's in other forms of sport as well.
Yes, of course. But it's the kind of situation where in rallying, if you can't concentrate on the notes or you can't concentrate on what's happening around you, the trees aren't that far away. So and you're going almost as quick as these guys are going, and in parts of the stages. Well, that might be a bit of a stretch, but they're going pretty much as quick as these guys are going in the corners on certain places during the stages.
Well, Alberto starting on the assuming that he completes the next laps without incident, Alberto starting on the outside of the front row is going to be a really formidable situation.
Oh, of course, of course.
I think David Saber may have a problem. He's losing a lot of time to Dana Schurrer in 5th.
Well, I believe David hit the wall during the pit stop, so he may not have repaired. I know he has a wing on the car, but maybe he's suffering some damage in the suspension side of things.
He had to have fixed the car because, but yeah, you're right, David. He's Mr. Saber's definitely giving up a lot of. Yeah. It looks like Dana's gonna be able to overtake him here before the end of the race. She's closing, hand over fist.
She does the fastest lap of the race. I think that's.
Oh goodness.
46.8.
Wow.
That's 2.5 tenths of the quickest lap of qualification heat 1. But that's a very blistering pace. That's certainly showing that she has the pace around here and will be one to certainly count on for the 500.
That's almost a 192 mile per hour lap.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Wow, and there she goes.
Wow.
Just zips right by. Dana is going to be really tough on Sunday. Mark my words. Next Sunday.
Oh, for sure. She's always up there during these kind of races. So I'm not counting her out in any way, shape, or form.
All right, Alberto's coming off the corner. He's going to take the white flag. There'll be one lap to go. He strikes the wall, but didn't look like it was too big of a glancing blow. He's going to be all right, I think, as long as he's got so much time. He could really just like 5/10 of the way, drive it.
Fitch is coming into the pits.
Fitch is in the pits? What?
So he's short by a lap.
I guess he was hoping that he could make it on fuel, and he just ran out. That's really unfortunate.
That's so unfortunate. So Schurrer will start on row 3.
That's a splash and dash, and he's out. But the damage is already done. He's going to lose a spot to Dana.
And possibly
Dana goes up to third.
And possibly want to Saber
Here
as well.
comes Alberto. Off the final corner.
Oh no, Saber's slowing down. Is he out of fuel?
Saber's out of fuel? Oh,
I
my
think
goodness.
so. Because Alberto just took the win. Ferguson finishes second after his troubles.
Well, fantastic result for Alberto.
Certainly.
We got Spanish Inquisition jokes on the on the YouTube chat. Yes. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition, but in this case, I think we expected Alberto to do well.
Certainly. Dana Schurrer finishes third, and Jason Fitch, despite the splash and dash, due to David Saber running out of fuel, Fitch finishes fourth.
Oh, well, that could have been way worse.
With Saber scored in 5th, Bos 6th, Greg Della Cella, Jereb, Remen, and Mroz. Unfortunately, our retirees scored in 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, respectively. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
No, just pointing out that, here comes Alberto to the, unfortunately, there's no way to get in there, into that winner's circle, so he's just going to park next to it. But Alberto's won 500-mile races before in other leagues. We know that he has the long view to do well in those, so I would hate to be setting Vegas odds on who's going to win next Sunday, because it's just like, who do you pick? Alberto, Dana, Juha looks fantastic. Fredrickson is really quick in an inferior car, quite frankly. I don't know who to pick next Sunday. It's going to be It should
No,
be
and-
exciting to watch.
Indeed, and Jereb had good pace as well, as did Francois Remen. He put on a really strong pass before his retirement. And, I mean, Ernest was keeping up as well. So I mean, Fitch had good pace as well, despite the damaged car. So I mean, it's almost impossible to call. There's 10, maybe even 12, 13 drivers that could possibly win the 500 next weekend.
Is that Alberto joining us?
Yeah, hello.
Ah, good
Hey,
evening, Alberto. Congratulations.
Thank you. At that point, when I got the drive-through penalty together with David Sabre for jumping the start, both idiots of us, I didn't think I could have many chances of this. But then with these races, that's what happens. I mean, there's the yellows and there's the strategy, and I was lucky with the pit stop, so I served my drive-through, and well, everything went my way. When I was following Dana, I was surprised because, I thought she had actually pit, but it seems it wasn't the case, and she had to pit later.
Yeah, we
Go ahead, Jason.
No, that was something we were worried about too. We didn't catch whether she had pit or not, but when she came in, we were just like, oh boy, there goes that.
I can tell you one thing. When I pit, there were 30 laps still to go, and I started immediately chasing Dana because I thought, oh well, she must have pit as well, so let's go and try to race for position because otherwise it's going to be hard. And then I realized, like 5, 6, 7 laps into following her and trying to overtake, I realized, oh my goodness, I'm not going to make it at this rate because I was having to use third gear as race gear. So I went one gear up to fourth and then started watching carefully until I was sure pacing myself until I was sure that I could finish the race. But it was hairy because, I did that extra cool-off lap, but when I stopped the car, there was 0.1 gallons in my tank.
And that was with the cool down lap.
Yeah, with a cool down lap. I mean, I couldn't have done another full lap at speed. I would have stopped in the backstretch or something like that. That's because I had been saving the fuel ever since I was giving up on passing Dana.
That's certainly cutting it fine.
Yeah. Well, I knew 30 laps was the window, and so that's what I can do, and I can indeed do them. Only it has to be saving fuel, not fighting for position. Anyway, happy to have finished, and looking forward now to what happens next weekend. It will be tough as hell, I can tell you that.
Very difficult.
For sure. And as we said, 10, 12, maybe even 13 drivers that has the pace to challenge outright for the win. And with how this track is, with the dirty air and the high speeds, anything can happen. We saw a big crash in the second qualification heat. We saw Ray Riddle in the first one with the tiniest of errors and paid a very heavy price for that. So it'll be a very long 500 miles next weekend.
Yeah, the thing is that in such a long race with the fuel consumption issues and with more yellows that are to be expected and all that, I think that we will be seeing much more overtaking simply because the cars will be on very different paces and strategies. So we'll see.
All right, well, I'm going to go take care of points housekeeping. Jonatan, thanks so much for broadcasting. We appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me for the second
heat,
Jason. Thank you, Alberto, for joining me for the first. As well as Dave, of course, for joining us and helping us out, and you as well for the first one.
Mr. Miller!
All right, see you next one. Thanks.
All right, see you guys later.
See you, Jason.
Disconnected from your channel.
So yeah, any final thoughts before we cap off the broadcast, Alberto and Dave?
No, like I said, it will be very tough. but I mean, we have to think a lot about the strategy and time it right when it comes to the pits, because overtaking on the track is really hard unless you are on a very different pace than the other car. So we'll see.
User disconnected from your channel.
And that's Alberto heading off. I know he has to work tomorrow. So thank you, Alberto and Jason, Dave, Juha, for joining me in the booth for these two qualification heats. Thank you to all our racers in both qualification heats for putting on some really good action, and should be a very good 500-mile race next weekend if these qualification heats is anything to go by. And that's, of course, next weekend. The green flag will drop at 2000 CET for round 3. 500 miles around this track. A lot of tired drivers at the end. Anything can happen. It'll be a stonker. And in in 2 weeks time, the Wednesday after the 500, we will have rounds 7 and 8 of 16 of the Australian Super Touring Car Championship from Amaru Park, the sort of Mickey Mouse miniature roller coaster track, which should offer some really good racing. There are cars available, so if you want to sign up for a Wednesday night race using AMS and Super Touring cars with door handle to door handle action, it's a good entry level here to ISO, so check them out on the forum. And in 3 weeks time, I believe that is. In 3 weeks time, on March the 8th, one of the crown jewels of the F1 schedule, Grand Prix de Monaco, will take place, and green light will turn on at 2000 CET, and Jason White will once again be in the booth, back in the booth for that one. So yeah, with that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the 2 qualification heats tonight, and I hope you have a good week, and that you'll tune in next Sunday for the 500 California event. But until then, take care and good night.